Thank you guys for joining us for another episode. Day 4 of NFL Free Agency Frenzy, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my main man, Ev. Ev, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. I was here we were here yesterday on the show, but I was also back here, midnight as news broke about a big time free agent signing here in Cincinnati. We're gonna get into all that, but before we do, if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are so close to our goal of 4K. We should probably start making bigger goals, right? We should probably start making bigger goals at this point, but also just give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and yeah, I'm excited to really get into this, man. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. I guess we'll start it off right in Cincinnati, right? I mean, I got to say my piece last night, and Evan, you didn't really get a chance to say your piece. Where were you? What are your thoughts? The Bengals go out there and they add the big fish, if you will, right? And people were quick to call you out on Twitter too, Ev. They were saying,
"Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, you just told me the Bengals wouldn't sign XYZ, yada, yada, yada." Whole, people love to complain. But I got to ask your opinion. What were your thoughts on the Bengals signing Orlando Brown Jr.?
Obviously, I have to say first, they knocked it out of the park. And the big part of that, obviously, is the value that they got him for, right? We talked earlier in prior to free agency, and we were talking about Jonah Williams versus Orlando Brown at their cost, and projections from multiple sources have his market value at 21, close to 22 per year average going into the free agency period. And we said the Bengals are not going to go and spend that money to get these guys. And as these contracts started to roll in, you see 17 and a half per year for Mike McGlinchey. You're seeing 20 million a year for Jawan Taylor. And you're thinking, okay, there's no way that he's not getting at least more than them when these guys have significantly greater question marks than what you would get from Orlando Brown. Even if, he's not a top 5. I'm not here to tell you he's a top 5 or top 10 tackle. He's an above average to very good tackle, depending on what you're getting out of him. But to pay $16 million for that, when you're getting that Mike McGlinchey for 17 and a half, who, again, we talked about, good run blocker, struggles in pass protection on true pass sets. Orlando Brown can at least offer you that length, that size, and is a tackle in his prime and signed for the next 4 years at an absolute bargain. To get 16 million, I mean, heck, find me one analyst out there who was saying he had for 16.5 million. I would have absolutely jumped at it, because we said with Jonah too, looking at this market, when he is a free agent next year, I'd be shocked if he doesn't get at least 15 or 16. If there's not one team that's willing to take a chance on them, if they're willing to pay a Mike McGlinchey 17 and a half. So obviously, I'm here to tell you the real picture. I'm not going to tell you this is a home run signing because this guy is the best tackle in the NFL. He's not. But he is a very good tackle. And yes, the penalties were high. The sacks were low. The pressures were high. A lot of noise is being made about the pressures, which obviously we need to pay attention to them, right? But if we're just looking at total pressures for a guy who played 20 games last season compared to guys who played 15 and 14, is that really fair to him? So looking at his pressures, that would be 58 pressures would be the most among 57 qualifying tackles, right? And if you look at his pass blocking efficiency, which keeps into account, it's an efficiency metric, not a counting stat, right? If we look at touchdowns for a guy who played 5 more games, he's going to have more touchdowns more likely than not, right?
Yeah.
So we look at the efficiency stat to tell us per game, per snap, what are we looking at? He was 41st out of 57 in pass block efficiency across the whole season, which nothing to sneeze at, but it's better than the 58 pressures, which ranked 57th, right? But then we look a little bit closer and we say, he really took off toward a little bit like the Bengals did in week 5, week 6, right? So looking at Orlando Brown from week 7 to the Super Bowl, his pass block rate went up to 83.2, which was 7th out of 55 tackles. So looking at that, just like we can look at Joe Burrow's sack rate, how he was taking so many sacks, changed and said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And then his sack rate was night and day different from week 5 onward, right? And it was similar in how you see Orlando Brown's production. Again, this is a good tackle who does not miss games, who you do not have to worry about, and you just got a guy at an absolute bargain. I mean, 20% what he was supposed to get per year. I mean, heck, if you talk about any free agent, any top guy, if the Bengals could have got Jamel Dean for 9 million or 10 million a year, yeah, absolutely. I would have said that's reasonable. Go get him. Absolutely, the Bengals could do it. But he was supposed to make 16. Orlando Brown was supposed to make 21 or 22, and he's getting 16 a year for the Bengals. I mean, I know they went out of their way to really guarantee money, to really come out and make their offer competitive, which is exceptional move by the Bengals. But you're seeing that discount that people want to take to play with Joe Burrow. To obviously he wants to play left tackle, and the Bengals are willing to take advantage of that market inefficiency that the NFL didn't want to pay him or view him as a left tackle. They said, fine, we'll pay you. Come on down here. Come play left tackle for us, and we will pay you like the 17th best tackle in the NFL. And you're going to give us that 10 to 12 to 13 range of tackle every single year for every game because of how durable this guy is. So now you've just got one need to look at. And so for that reason, for value, for fit, yes, you're looking at Jonah wondering where you put him now. You're wondering what happens with him. But to get this kind of guy at this kind of value is just really an impressive move by this front office and way to take advantage of what the market was dictating.
I'll tell you this, man. The way I look at it, I think he's the best tackle that the Bengals have had since Andrew Whitworth.
Hands down.
And the guy has proven that he could do it at a high level. He just wanted a team to take a chance on him, man, and the Bengals were that team to take a chance on him. The Bengals should have been the team to draft him, to be honest with you. Obviously, they didn't draft him. The Ravens wind up, going in there getting him and things of that nature. But it's really, really cool to see a guy believe in himself, take a chance on himself, and see it be rewarded like this. Certainly he probably didn't, get what he anticipated on the open market, right? But the fact that the Bengals were willing to really show him that loyalty and that support, saying, hey, we believe you could be our left tackle, it's great. Talking about it, like Jonah Williams at right tackle, right? Because that's what's probably going to happen. Jonah, man, I have high hopes for him at right tackle. I really do, man. I think the guy, I think that this is huge for him as well, man, and being able to step outside of step outside than his norm, right, and what he's used to, right? We both are Alabama Crimson Tide fans,
right.
Conveniently, I guess, and we know how well he played there as a freshman, right? It wasn't elite, I would say, but he played well there,
right?
And it's gonna be very interesting to see him really bolster his stock or in the NFL. And I'll tell you this right now, if he winds up going out there having a great year at right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, they will 100% pay him. They will. The Bengals believe in paying tackles. They do. They will always pay that position. They paid Andrew Whitworth so many contracts while he was here in Cincinnati, right? It just got down to an age standpoint where they thought they were smarter than the average bear, and they drafted Cedric Boye, Jake Fisher, and things of that nature. So they thought, hey, you know what? We can move on. He thought the young guys were ready. They had to, see what they had in those draft picks that they made. But the fact of the matter is, I do think he could be special. I do think he could be special at right tackle. Do you have any hopes or ideas for Jonah at right tackle?
No, obviously that's difficult for anybody to do, right? Especially when you haven't done it since 2016. So that's what, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
You hope for the best. You hope that he rises to the challenge, and everybody talks about Jonah and very affectionately saying, he's a pro's pro. He's doing all the right things. So hopefully he comes back healthy and competes at that spot and can make you feel a lot more confident about what you have there, as opposed to just relying on a Lyle Collins and maybe a kind of third or fourth tier veteran tackle who's maybe on his last legs in the league. So you improve your offensive line depth, you improve your competition by doing this, and that's usually going to help players rise to another level, right? And elevate their own level of play. And I think we might see that with Jonah, but again, we've seen this, guys, where they have what we call, God, I'm going to say the words I don't like, first round draft pedigree, right? To where even when a guy is 28 or 29 or 30, you hear this former first round pick, even though you've got a body of work 8 years long to look at the NFL, it still follows these guys, right? And people look at their original scouting reports of a guy coming out, and they ignore what a guy's been for 4 or 5 years, and we'll go back and say, man, we really like this guy coming out. So I think there's plenty of teams out there that would be willing to pay. Maybe someone gets desperate and wants to trade and extend them, which we talked about the other day. I'm not a fan of, because you give up assets and then hold yourself hostage almost. But that's beside the point. I definitely think that if he's comfortable, adjusts well, and the Bengals feel comfortable with him, I definitely agree that I think you could see an extension.
Well,
for him.
let's keep it there, right? When we're talking about offensive linemen who, or players in general who come into the NFL with that first round tag on them, it does hold a lot of weight. It can get you multiple contracts in the NFL. It's the reason why I think Cedric Boyd is still in the NFL. Let's talk about that. The Bengals went out and they signed Cody Ford today. Cody Ford, I believe he was a second round pick. The Bengals tried to trade up in that draft, 2019 draft, and they actually tried to get either him or Juwan Taylor. Both of those things did not happen. They were jumped, and other teams, they flew off the board like flies at that point.
Right.
So you look at it, right? What are your expectations for a Cody Ford? Now, I know a lot of people are down on him. People are kind of just ripping into the signing, things of that nature. But this is what you guys wanted, right? You wanted the Bengals to be active. You wanted the Bengals to go out there and make a move. You wanted the Bengals to do something. And I still believe he could be something because I believe in Frank Pollock as an offensive line coach. That is what I will say. The fact of the matter is, I think depth can be a good thing. Is he worse than Hakeem Adeniji? Is he worse than Jackson Carman? No one knows the answer to that. We won't know the answer to that until he gets in the room with those guys and with Frank Pollock and he works and things of that nature. We genuinely do not know what that's going to look like. So I would just say be slow to pass judgment. He's also has been on some really interesting teams, I would say, as well.
Arizona going through that tumultuous last year.
Yeah, Arizona. He was the Buffalo Bills were also flopping people out on the offensive line nonstop. So I would just say let's just hold our horses. And I don't agree that he's the worst offensive lineman that we have. I do not agree with that, Michael. But you're entitled to your opinion, my man. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I view him as kind of that Max Sharping guy, that guy who's nice to add. You hope you don't have to break glass in case of emergency for him. But it's nice to have those bodies there that at least you can feel confident where. I mean, he is 6'3", 329, so at least you're talking about a guy who is going to be big and in the way. And like you said, you give a very good offensive line coach what he's looking for and hope that you can trust him to develop these guys to get more out of them than other places have. And you talked about it. He was, with a not great situation in Arizona last year. And obviously he never really got the chance outside of his first year in Buffalo with over 700 snaps. Never saw over more than 500 in the season since. So there's been a lot of inconsistency there. But if you can find a way to tap into that potential, like we talked about earlier, the Bengals probably had their report on him coming out, clearly liked him, as you said. And they probably maybe see this looking at their pro scouting department and saying, maybe this guy wasn't given the right chance. Maybe he wasn't getting the right coaching, and maybe we can get more out of him. So I think this staff has earned the benefit of the doubt there. So good depth signing. Wouldn't expect too much, but would love to be pleasantly surprised if he turns out to be a good depth
We'll
piece.
see what happens, right? There's no need to complain about it and things of that nature. It's clear that the common theme coming out of this free agency is protect number 9, protect Joe Burrow. He's the franchise. You got to protect your biggest investment, and they're about to make a big investment, I'm sure. So I want to keep the conversation rolling. The Pittsburgh Steelers released Myles Jack today, right? What are your thoughts on that? To me, that kind of caught me by surprise. I want to hear what your thoughts are. It could be a cap casualty thing. It could be they looked at the contract and said, it's not worth it. You see the rest of these very good linebackers are, signing for $7 million a year. What are your thoughts on Myles Jack being released?
I think you're starting to see maybe that he's been in the league now, 6-7 years. So he's starting to he's still 20, going to be 28, I think, this upcoming season. So he had 2 really down years in his last couple years. I think he got signed out of Jacksonville and into Pittsburgh, hoping that maybe with a team that has done a great job of getting the most out of a lot of defenders that have been cast off from other teams. Absolutely agree with trying to take a swing on a guy like that. But I think his age, getting closer to 30, 2 bad years in a row, I think they were willing to say, hey, we want to dedicate our money, our resources elsewhere, and think that's going to be a more effective use of our money, because maybe they feel they can get some other guys who are maybe some athletic linebackers and coach them up a little bit and say, you'll be cheap and you'll also be about the same level of player, better, because like we said, the last 2 years haven't been great to him. So I completely understand where they're coming from, the move, and I think maybe a change of scenery might be the best for him too.
I would love to see the Patriots go after him. I would. I'd like to see the Patriots give that guy a chance. They need to, bolster that linebacker room and get a real leader in there. And I'm not saying he's going to be a world beater, but the Patriots definitely need some new depth, right? It's a linebacker's a spot where they struggle at. So it'll be interesting to see what shakes out there. Keep the conversation rolling. A couple of little low-key signings happened. Paris Campbell to the New York Football Giants. I feel like the guy's on a new team each and every year. I don't know if that's correct or not, but Patriots signed James Robinson, Solomon Thomas back with the Jets on a 1-year deal. So yeah, today was a little bit of more of a slower day, I would say, right? Not nothing too crazy happening. I think the one big thing that happened, everybody's like, oh, Adam Schefter finally said Bryce Young is going to go number 1 overall. And I'm like,
where have I heard that before?
Yeah. Anyway, if you guys could do us a huge favor, we're about to get to some of these questions. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate that. We have a goal that we're trying to hit. We can't do this without you guys. We appreciate you guys for joining us.
We hit 4K.
We hit 4K.
We hit 4K.
Wow.
Thank
you guys.
Appreciate
Thank
all
you.
the support. Appreciate all the support. We can't do this without you guys, seriously. And special thanks to First Star for making this all possible as well. Give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on post notifications because we're going live. We've gone live each and every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern time to break NFL, go over the NFL, news when it comes to free agency frenzy and talk through the rumors and things of that nature. And we even did an impromptu show last night at midnight where we talked about the Orlando Brown signing. But yeah, Daniel, let's get to some of these questions. I'm interested to talk to the people.
So it's only right if we started off with the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Gesicki. Everybody's asking, Malik, do you actually think the Bengals are interested in Mike Gesicki? And also somebody else was saying, Malik, can we get your Gesicki probability for the Bengals?
No, I won't do that. I will not jinx that. I will not do any of that. But I will say that I'll keep saying what I've said before. If you guys heard me, I was on Spaces this morning as well, and I was talking with Zim and Ace, and I was saying, I'm very bullish on putting information out there. I don't do the whole rumors thing and things of that nature, but I would just say this to you guys: the Bengals understand that they have to go out there, right? And they know that they have to. There are some positions that they still have to, they have a need for, if you will, on the team. And in terms of the Mike Gesicki thing, I'll just say this: he said he wanted to come to a pass-happy offense. He's out there. This is now day what of free agency? Day 4 of NFL free agency. The tight end market isn't shaping up the way a lot of these guys thought it was. I know Dalton Schultz has been linked to the Chargers because I think he has the connection with the offense coordinator who used to be with the Dallas Cowboys. What's his face?
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore, right? So, again, the longer this thing goes, the cheaper these guys become. Again, free agency is open. The new year is open. So guys can sign this weekend. Guys can sign next week. Just hold your horses. Let's be patient. It's a lot like what I was saying to you guys throughout this entire build-up. Let's just be patient. The Bengals are in a luxury spot. They're a team where a lot of free agents want to go to. They're in a spot where they're contending for a championship while also not trying to be reckless and spend money. So, yeah.
Christian has a good question about the Buccaneers. He said, do you think the Buccaneers are happy to have Baker? And also, what is your guys' thoughts on them getting Chase Edmonds?
I think the Buccaneers are happy to have Baker Mayfield. I mean, if you think about it, it was between Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. And it's just a tough, I mean, they were in a rough spot. They had to find somebody, right? To me, I think the one thing Baker Mayfield has going for himself is he is a competitor and he wants to win. So the way I look at it, I would just say they got a guy who wants to win. I won't say they have a winner, right? Mm-hmm. But I will say they've got a guy that wants to win, who has the fire to win. And for whatever reason, Baker Mayfield, outside of the Browns, guys really rally behind him. They did it with the Rams. They really rallied around him. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I like the Chase Edmonds signing too. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Leonard Fournette was not an effective rusher last year. Really just putrid running stats. And Rachaad White looked a little bit better as the season went on, but they definitely needed that juice and that athleticism that they've lacked in that backfield. So moving on from Leonard Fournette, heading in that direction, I think that's a good way to go.
People are asking about Nick Scott. Some people are saying we want Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but what are you guys' thoughts on Nick Scott, with the whole visit?
I think if you're doing that, you're giving you a true open competition to your 5th round pick at safety to compete. I know he started games for the Rams. I am generally of the opinion if starts is the first thing that you talk about with a player, that it's like a quarterback, and you don't talk about being able to throw the ball well or that they're accurate. It's like you're kind of dancing around the issue there. So he's been a solid safety, and you kind of are banking that Anarumo can get more out of this guy, which we know he can do with defensive backs. We know he's the defensive back whisperer, but there's free agent options at safety that I would prefer, that I think you could probably still get for similar money, that I think give you more upside. I hesitate to talk about a 28-year-old who just has 16 starts his last season, and that was really his first kind of opportunity to be thrust into the starting role. And I just wouldn't bank on him being a true, we signed him, he's the starter, there you go. I think it would be more of that, you bring in a veteran for competition and to hopefully stabilize the depth a little bit.
Christian's asking, do you guys think Ezekiel Elliott is going to the Buffalo Bills, or where do you think?
Well, let me just jump in here real quick. Michael, you said Super Bowl teams don't start unknowns, yet and still Nick Scott started for the Rams when they won the Super Bowl. What do you like? Yeah, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So going back to Zeke Elliott, where do you guys think he goes? Do you guys think he go to the Bills, or where do you think he ends up?
I don't know where Zeke Elliott ends up. Apparently, the Buccaneers are supposed to have some interest in him. I don't see that happening anymore with the Chase Edmonds signing. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think the Bills need him. I don't think the Bills need to go pay for that. I think they got James Cook because they liked him and started to give him that run over the back end of the season.
Yeah.
And I think around week 10, he started to see a lot more of the snaps and a lot more of the carries too when he was out there. So I just don't like the idea. Again, they were a running back away when they went and got, Devin Singletary. We saw this, a running back away with the Chiefs. Guys, like the Eagles are paying like $2 million a piece to each of their running backs. And they're all going to be just fine because of the offense they're running, the scheme they're running, and the offensive line, which we've talked about with running backs. The scheme, the offensive line, everything has to be good for them to start to succeed. And the Eagles have still managed to be very successful, get these guys like Boston Scott that they enjoy and find that they say, hey, this guy gets exactly what we need, exactly what's blocked, and he's cheap, and we can spend that money in other positions. And I think spending on Zeke at this point is probably an unwise decision for a team that doesn't need just a capable veteran starter or has the money to blow. I don't think a championship team with finite resources should be allocating them to a 28-year-old running back like that.
P. Crawley's asking, since Orlando Brown signed with the Bengals, is tackle still a possibility for the Bengals in round 1?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think they're comfortable sitting at the Jonah Williams and kind of seeing how that plays out?
Listen, I think so, 100%. And I've been very adamant about this. I see it either going tight end or defensive line. That's what I see. And it really depends on how the board shapes up, right? You go out there and you sign a tight end that makes a lot of sense, right? You no longer have to,
if you sign a Mike Gesicki, hypothetically speaking, if you were, does that make you change your mind to maybe they attack D-line and corner earlier? Or do you think corner is off the board at 1, but maybe a little bit later?
I think it really depends on the talent that falls, right? I don't think any position is off the board because we never know. That's the one thing we know about the draft.
That's what we want it to be, right? That's what we want it to be. You never
know, but you don't want to go into the draft saying, I need to do this.
Exactly.
Right? So the way I look at it is, man, just from what I've gathered, it seems like it's going to be tight end or defensive line. Now, if they go out there and get a Mike Gesicki, they still might double dip and go tight end. It all depends. If they were able to sign a veteran tight end to a 1-year deal, okay, tight end is still a need. So you still need to address it because what happens after that 1 year, right? So then you're looking squarely at defensive line. You're looking at the Will McDonald's of the world. You're looking at the edge rushers, the 3 techs. So that's what you're squarely focusing on at that point. But yeah, that's what I think.
People are asking about Jonah Williams' trade value. What do you guys think his trade value is? And do you think that a trade for him to get another first-round pick would be on the table?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think the Bengals are not a
first-round pick. No, you got a guy on an expiring deal, guys, that you're going to have to pay, and he's been an average tackle who has injury concerns. You're talking.
I don't think the Bengals trade
like a 2 or 3, and I don't think they do either. I think they just filled their offensive tackle spots in their mind. They just fixed the problem. They don't want to go create another hole right away as soon as they fix the problem. I think they're content with saying, we've got Jonah, we've got Lyle, we've got Jackson Carman, we've got Orlando Brown. tackle might be where we want it to be comparative to the last couple years, or even since they had Andrew Whitworth there.
Right.
So I think they're a lot more content with what that situation is and are going to look to address other holes in the roster. Again, like corner, I keep bringing it up. I will keep harping on this. You can never have enough of these defensive backs, and they do not have enough youth in that room right now. So I hope they go after a guy like a Rocky Sin, maybe a Marcus Peters, but I don't think he wants that kind of backup role. I think he still probably wants to compete, maybe a Shaq Griffin, but just one of these veteran corners that is about 26, 27, that area, not 30, and just gives them a little bit more stability through this transition time in the next year or two.
Our guy Nathan said he just wants to know what do you guys think his value is worth? Like,
I think the
maybe
most
a third.
third max. I think
Like-
at maximum you probably get a third, maybe a late second for him, maybe.
the
But why not just if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're here, turn on post notifications. Appreciate your support. Yep. Continue.
the Bengals re-signed Trent Taylor today. How important is it to have continuity at the returner positions, and do you think he's going to stay in both of those roles this year?
I mean, he can. I mean, you definitely want some more explosion if you could possibly get it, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think they're tied. I don't think they're tied to him, if you will. But I do think that is you do want continuity, and that feels like that's a layup for Darren Simmons as well. Get him one of his guys. And Trent Taylor's been good in special teams for the Bengals.
Any idea what we're going to do about the running back room for the Bengals?
Malik, you hopefully have a little more clarity on the situation than I do.
I mean, I think the Bengals are going to draft a running back.
Do you think obviously we got to wait for the Mixon stuff to just kind of blow over a little bit. I think they're respectful and aren't obviously going to make any moves until he gets everything sorted out with whatever's going on with him. And obviously we think we've been told he wasn't involved whatsoever. It's a non-issue, but at the same time, optics, if you were to cut or renegotiate or do something right now, might be enough to keep the Bengals to just kind of sit on their hands and just let this go over and kind of do right by a guy, which I can understand and respect. From a purely business standpoint, having him on this roster just doesn't make sense. But I understand, like we saw with Jerry and Zeke, if they're a guy that they want to honor the contract and they feel like he's the lifeblood of the organization, then no one's really going to move them off them. We've seen the Bengals go, these are our guys, and this is how we're going to play in the past. And I think this might be one of those situations.
Bryce is talking about a guy that hasn't really been talked about enough, Shaq Griffin. What's your guys' thoughts on Shaq Griffin?
I've always liked him. I've always liked Shaq Griffin personally. Big fan of the guy. Think he has a lot to offer a team still. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about him. What are your thoughts?
It's one of those guys who coming out had the speed, has the size. He's not 6'2", but he's 6 foot 200 almost. Ran a 4.4, is going to be 28, I think, by the time the season rolls around. And that's a guy who's just given you multiple seasons of above average corner play. And if we're talking again about a guy who maybe cost you $4 or $5 million, but was his career highs and averages were better than Eli Apple, I think that's a way you improve on that cornerback 4 spot and increase your depth. And then also maybe you get those above average, those good, very good seasons out of him when he comes and plays for a guy like Lou Anarumo who can help him play to his strengths.
Yeah.
Would you guys prefer Zach Charbonnet or Jameer Gibbs?
Oh, man, Gibbs all day.
Yeah, that's
Gibbs all day.
You're talking to two Bama guys, and he's got juice like crazy.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, the size is maybe not what a lot of teams might like, but I think his foot speed, his balance, his just electric cuts that he can make. I mean, it's special. With the ball in his hands in space, he's special, and he can make people miss. And that's what you're looking for from the running back position, right? Is the ability to add extra yards more than what's blocked, and he does that in spades.
JJ Production, our guy, appreciate you tuning in again.
Vikings fan, appreciate you supporting, man. Appreciate you subscribing because that shows you he's here every single day, man.
He is, man. Live, man. We see you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Feel free to ask some Viking questions. You know, I think he asked a couple times about Danielle Hunter. Let's make sure we're getting to the people though.
Yeah, so he actually had questions, so we'll get to Danielle Hunter after. But he said thoughts on Cordell Volson and also Alex Kappa.
Wait, say that again.
Thoughts on Cordell Volson and Alex Kappa. Just what's your thoughts on him?
I think that Alex Kappa is great for the Bengals. He is a very good starter for them, and I think he played great this year. He's everything that the Bengals had hoped when they signed him. Cordell Volson made a lot of strides as a rookie for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's a guy they're very, very excited about.
So thoughts on Danielle Hunter?
Oh, dude's amazing. Love him. I'm surprised that, he really kind of developed into the exceptional player that he is. He was one of those guys who had the traits, right? But maybe not the proven production coming out, was drafted in the 3rd round and just absolutely came out and got better every single year. In the last 3 or 4 years, he's really been one of the best edge defenders consistently out there. And so I can't say enough good things about him. And hopefully the Bengals can find something like that in this super athletic defensive line draft class.
Our guy Knife is asking about Matt Ryan. Do you guys think Matt Ryan has any more football left in him?
I don't know. I think Matt Ryan literally put everything he had into almost every pass. You saw his whole body and soul into every pass he threw last year, and even that couldn't get it far enough sometimes. So I think we say, Matt Ryan, you were a really good quarterback in the NFL for a while, and
thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Right off into the sunset, man. Count your money. Good job.
Jim's asking, Malik, what do you think about Juan Thornhill to the Browns? Is that what his market value was worth? 3-year, $21 million and $14 million guaranteed.
I mean, I think in free agency, a lot of people just get overpaid. I won't say Juan Thornhill got overpaid, but to me, he was starting on. That says a lot when he was on the Chiefs, correct? Like that to me, that says a lot if they don't bring you back, because their secondary, in my opinion, isn't amazing. They made strides towards the end of the season and things of that nature, but that speaks volumes, man. The Browns are, they went out and they got Juan Thornhill. I think he's a good player. I think he has upside, but you're still waiting for that upside to continue to be unlocked. That's what you're waiting for.
Right. And I think the Chiefs probably wanted to get younger, much like the Bengals are right now at safety, where they're saying, hey, we want to get younger, we want to get cheaper because we're spending on a quarterback, offensive line play. We're spending at these positions. So we want to try and find those places like running back, safety, linebacker, these kind of spots where you can get away with a guy who's just a really good athlete and some of these younger guys where then you can pay the premium position. So I think that's part of the atrophy with why Juan Thornhill ended up leaving the Chiefs and why they maybe didn't bring him back. And like you said, you kind of overpay maybe by $1 million or $2 million on a lot of free agents because you have to be a priority to them. You're bidding against other teams. So that inflates their value. So again, it just honestly goes back to, if you can get a guy for a great market value, that's really free agency is about filling holes, getting that good value. And then the draft is about adding just really good players to your roster, regardless of position.
We got a Packers question from our guy Tyler. He said, Will Levis to the Packers? And 2-part question also, just where did they go with the quarterback?
Who, the Packers?
Yeah.
I think Jordan Love is their starting quarterback.
Right. If they've sunk this much time and effort into him and lip service and everything else. And I think
they've said all the right things about him.
Yeah, no, I think he deserves a run too. I think that's completely fair to him. So I think they'll evaluate what they have in him a little bit more and then see where they want to go.
If you didn't hear, I said it on the show a few days ago. I firmly believe Will Levis will be the quarterback of the Colts. And, I've been standing by that. Now, I know it sounds a little bit more conspiracy theorist, my story behind that. And I think you can go look at Free Agency Frenzy Day 2 if you want to hear about that and why I feel that way. But, yeah.
I think that also makes sense, though, because if you think about it in that pecking order, you expect a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, guys who are more polished, have better tape, bigger programs, guys that you feel maybe a little bit more excited or you feel a little more confident about what they're going to be and how consistently they can transfer their skills to the NFL. Anthony Richardson is obviously that big traits guy, right? That they want to take a home run swing on. I think Will Levis definitely has great measurables in his own right, but we know that the accuracy was scattershot and he's just not as physically imposing as Anthony Richardson is. Right. So I think people can talk themselves into what Anthony Richardson can be. I think people are probably a little bit more confident about what they would expect from Will Levis. And I think it makes sense in the pecking order to make it to where the Colts are drafting at 7.
Are you guys surprised that Nasir Adderley retired?
Yes. I was very high on Nasir Adderley, man. I thought that guy had a lot of untapped potential. It's a shame to see his career fall the way it has.
Right.
Christian saying, do you guys think that the Cowboys should get rid of Dak Prescott?
No.
The Cowboys are talking about extending Dak Prescott, so I don't think that they will. Nor do I think that it's hard to find. Is
Dak Prescott the best quarterback in the NFC right now, not named Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
There you go. That's right there. Why are you trying to – the entire NFC is in shambles right now. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to stay competitive. You've got the 49ers trying to figure out if they're going to start Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold or Trey Lance or however that situation is going to unfold. You've got the Rams rebuilding. You've got the Seahawks with Geno Smith. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on Geno. I'm so happy that he got his money and showed out, right? But again, you're talking about you've got to have these top tier quarterbacks that can take you where you need to go. And Dak is still one of those guys. He is still a great processor. He is still excellent against the blitz, to where I know it doesn't always look pretty. Sometimes there's interceptions that don't go well. There's a little bit of luck involved with those interceptions. That happens, right? It's gonna getting rid of that quarterback right now with the state of the NFC would just be a terrible move, in my opinion.
Malik, where do you think the Seahawks do at pick number 5? Do you think they go with the quarterback, or do you think that they go with the pass rusher?
I don't think they go with a pass rusher.
That's their MO.
They need some juice on that defensive line.
Right. I would expect to see them hit trenches.
Should anybody expect any more signings for the Bengals today?
Don't know. I mean, I know they're going to continue to try to look to add pieces to this team, but today that's up to them and the agents that if they're able to get a deal done with things. So
McCole Hardman, this is actually a name we haven't talked about enough. Where do you think that McCole Hardman goes? I mean, he's probably the best free agent wide receiver out there besides Thielen.
His market has been very quiet.
I will not tolerate this OBJ slander. He said that he was the best wide receiver on the market. I'm kidding.
Said that?
No, I said besides Adam Thielen. I mean Odell, but like,
I'm giving you a hard time, Daniel. It's all right.
No, of course. If the Bengals draft a tight end, who do you think that they like?
Who do I think that they like? I know that they talked to several defensive linemen, and that's a position that it seems to be that they're focusing in hard on, right? I know that they like, a couple of the tight ends as well. So it's very, very difficult to see, where they rank on the board without actually, speaking to more people. I know that the focus has really been just the free agency right now, right? So like I'm trying to uncover a lot of things with that. So we'll have more time to talk about that type of stuff.
Right. We can get a little bit more into their draft meetings and such and who they've talked to. But at the same time, if you look back at those, sometimes the Bengals don't talk to the guys that they draft. The meetings are not always signs of interest. Sometimes they just want to do a little bit more homework on a guy. Sometimes
it's just challenging when you're at 28, right? You're at the back end of the draft, and that's the caveat to being a successful team. It's challenging to see, to
predict what's going to happen.
You're even just like they don't even know who's going to be there, right? They don't. You can project as much as you want, but people don't know.
Right.
Does the Orlando Brown deal affect potential extensions with T. Higgins or Logan Wilson?
I won't anticipate it, and
they front loaded the heck out of the deal. So that's not going to really have a lot of bearing on that. I don't think. I think you'll get most of the guaranteed money out of the way before you're talking about, because these contracts still have time on them. If you extend them, it reduces that cap hit for that incoming year. So I think that helps and fits really well with what you get from Orlando Brown in the first year or two. We talk about the salary cap each year is like playing Tetris, right? You got this big block and you got to make all these little blocks fit in there, right? So you reduce that year one cap hit of a guy like Logan Wilson or T. Higgins through an extension and make it a little block to fit Orlando Brown's big block. And then the next year, when Orlando Brown's big block shrinks, you adjust someone else's. So, and you make it all fit together before you reach the top where the salary cap is. So I definitely don't think it precludes them from giving them any extensions or taking care of that.
What's the best place for Odell Beckham Jr.?
I mean, Dallas would make sense, right? As that number 2 receiver option, since they got rid of Amar. But before we get into Odell Beckham, I want to know what his intentions are, man. If the guy's actually committed to the game of football. The
reports recently were he wanted $20 million a year, and then the reports came out he wanted a multi-year deal too. It's like, man, you're making it hard on yourself. Like, do that 1 year prove it deal at $20 million before you ask for a multi-year deal. Otherwise, if you're going out there expecting
major knee surgery,
right?
Like your knee, you tore the same, ACL that you tore before. It's very hard to say that you could go out there and run empty routes
and you're 30,
right?
And you've had this history of unfortunate injuries, of soft tissue injuries that always seem to pop back up. These hamstrings, these groin issues, and especially when your game is predicated on being that explosive guy, that really hurts, not just being 30.
And Devondre Harris, you say, when has Odell never been committed? It was last year. Teams were interested in him, and the guy decided to have a party in Vegas where he was getting paid $3 million from Cash App to host it. He chose to do that over signing with a team when teams were very much so interested in him. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that, like I said, a lot of the people don't know. That's why a lot of teams are like out on this guy. Guy went on LeBron James, the shop talk, and talked about he doesn't see the value in playing a long season. It's much better for him to,
sign later
into a season, help a team win a championship.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, come on now.
What do you guys think about defensive tackle in the draft, Brian Breesy from Clemson? What
Love
are you guys'
Brian
thoughts?
Breesy. I just think that guy. I just don't know if that guy will be there.
I don't know if he will either, but
Yeah.
I definitely want to see them attack both edge and interior defensive line with some picks, whether that's round 2, 3, or 4. If you try and recoup some of these guys and take a swing on an upshot, like a guy who has a Danielle Hunter profile, the guy who didn't have that proven production but has the athletic profile, because when you get into that 3rd and 4th round, you get those guys either who have the athleticism and not the production, or the production and not the athleticism, or you get those weird size outlier guys that no one knows where to place, right? So they have a little bit more of the question marks, but if you can get a couple home run swings on these positions and hit 1 or 2 of them, I mean, that's going to work wonders for the Bengals here in the coming years, especially in the cap.
And Devondre, I don't mean to be a jerk or sound like a jerk, but you're asking me a question, brother, and I'm trying to tell you what I know for a fact. And then you come back and you tell me, oh, but you do know. So like, if that's what you want to go with, I could just tell you for sure that I know the Cowboys and the Bills were both interested in him. When they realized that this guy was not focused on football, they backed off. Then the injury stuff came about afterwards about they wasn't sure if he would be able to pass the physical and all that kind of stuff. But there were teams that were willing to overlook that. Right? It's up to the team's discretion if they want to overlook those things, especially if they know about the injury coming in. So, like I said, if you want to, go with that, then by all means, my man. I won't answer. I won't answer the question.
Ty Kendall and a couple others were asking about the Giants. Where do you think that they go in the first round with the first pick? I think
That's a good
pick number
question.
25.
It is.
Defensive back, probably.
You think so?
I think defensive back makes sense for them.
Yeah, I would. Man, they could definitely, if you sign Daniel Jones to that deal, right? I like the swing at Paris Campbell. Obviously, you like the swing at Darren Waller, but let's say the Darren Waller deal doesn't work out, and 1 year later, you're sitting here looking at this receiving core without him. I mean, that's tough for a guy you just invested in, right? As much as it might be that QB option, Daniel Jones, check down, don't mess things up, just go to the right spot, take what you get. I mean, it worked for them, but that's a low ceiling offense, high floor, low ceiling offense, right? And that's going to be hard on him if you don't have those weapons. Now, is this the best receiver class? Is this, when you want to take a chance on a guy? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they have their guy that they really like. But I think maybe you're right that they take a swing on one of these really good athletic corners and just try to figure it out with their running game.
While we're here, if you guys could all do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We officially crossed over 4K. We're trying to hit 5K now. So can't do this without you guys. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Remember, we have one more free agency show. We went 5. This is day 4 of NFL free agency frenzy. And tomorrow will be another one. Yeah, it just feels like we're, it's it feels like it's been a long,
long
week, man.
But
again, I wouldn't rather be anywhere else talking ball with you guys, man.
Would you guys sign Kenny Golladay as your wide receiver 4? Or if not, what would you do for the wide receiver 4 for the Bengals?
I would not sign Kenny Golladay.
I would swing at DJ Chark before I swung at Kenny Golladay.
Jim's asking Evan, do you have any thoughts on Matt Corral possibly getting traded from the Panthers? They just got Andy Dalton and they have the number 1 overall pick. So what do you think about Matt Corral?
I think they're trying to recoup any value they can get on him before they maybe cut him. It's unfortunate that it's worked out the way it has. But that's what we see with these guys. You take a chance on a mid-round flyer on a quarterback who came from one of those kind of more gimmicky offenses in college and say, hey, can this guy transfer to his skills to a pro-style system? And it just hasn't looked good for Matt Corral. So I think they're just trying to recoup any value they can get for him before ultimately just cutting him or releasing him outright, which is unfortunate, but that's, we see this all the time. Quarterback is a tough spot, and there's not that many, and that's why they go high in the first round. Like corner, like edge, it's a position you generally have to attack in the first round if you want to get one of the premium prospects.
Our guy Robert's asking, how would you guys feel about a trade down in one of the first couple rounds for the Bengals?
How would you feel?
I mean, it depends how far back you're going, right? I
Right.
mean, it depends on the compensation for it. If you're talking about you move from your first round pick down to like the back end or the middle of the second round, there's quite a bit of fall off and drop off between, picks 28 and 50, to where if you're, at pick 58 or 60 now, all of a sudden the caliber of prospect you're getting compared to 30 or 32 or 35, if you want to trade back 7 or 8 spots, is a lot different. So I'm not a fan of trading back in that round necessarily. Maybe in some of like the second or third round to pick up an extra third or fourth round pick if you really feel like there's some quality prospects you like at the interior defensive line, at tight end that you want to hit. More picks would definitely be great because we know the draft is a crapshoot. So more swings at the bat, more dice rolls is good, right? But you also want to try and match that quantity with the quality and kind of be in that sweet spot of the second, third round with those picks. So acquiring an extra fourth or fifth round pick may not be worth a tremendous move backwards, I would say more than 10 or so spots.
Who'd you guys say has been the biggest overpay and the biggest steal so far through free agency? Our guy Jim is asking.
Good question, man. I think Tremaine Edmonds was a little bit of an overpay for the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of share that. I know Evan and I share that same sentiment.
Right. Yeah. And also, what are your thoughts? Do you think there was maybe a little bit of overpay for the Lindstrom deal, considering that they just had cap space, need quality players, and you're talking about a lot of money committed to a guy who plays mostly on the interior?
Here's what I'll say to that. You got to overvalue your guy, because if you don't overvalue him, the market certainly will. So to keep a guy and that's an elite guard like Chris Lindstrom, no, I don't think that was an overpay.
Okay.
Our guy Daniel Jensen says, Malik, do you guys have an open Discord DMs? It's hard to get one in here for questions. My man, maybe. you can drop your questions down below. We'll answer them.
Yeah, maybe we'll jump. Yeah, we're trying to get to all the questions we possibly can, but maybe we'll start a Discord or something like that.
Maybe. Our guy Ty Kendall's asking about Sam Howell in Washington. I know that they got Jacoby Brissett, but how do you guys feel about Sam Howell in Washington?
I'll say this. I don't think that brother's going to get a chance to start. I think that that's Jacoby Brissett's job to lose personally. That Jacoby's a pro's pro. He knows what it takes to win the job. And I think the Commanders are in good hands with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, don't have too much more to add there when you're talking about a guy who they've got some veteran coaches there who probably want a veteran quarterback to execute their system, throw to their talented bevy of weapons they got there, and play some good defense. And that's probably not going to be the 5th round rookie from last year that, really got one game of action. I think going out and signing Jacoby and telling him that they want him to compete is a clear sign that they want him to compete and win that job.
All right.
Daniel Gable said, I'm pretty sure I remembered Jadeveon Clowney getting some interest from the Bengals a while ago. Any chance that they snag him?
Any truth to that, Malik?
I don't remember that. But anything that they'll snag, I don't know.
Well,
that guy
he gave up on the Browns last year, man. I'm not interested. Yeah. He's kind of had that attitude in a couple different places he's been. He's constantly, in my opinion, overvalued himself. A guy who never lived up to his billing as a pass rusher and has just basically become a run defender. And there's a lot of 30-year-old defensive ends that can play the run well and not give you pass rush juice. And that's not valuable. So I think you might see him sit on the market for a while with his injury history, with his age, and how he values himself. I think that's a guy who could be sitting out there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Our guy John Barker said, Malik, who do you think is going to take Bijan Robinson in the draft?
That's a good question. There are a lot of people coming out saying, I don't believe in drafting running backs in the first round. What do you have a special talent like Bijan sitting out there? It's going to be tested to see if you actually, live up to that,
right?
That your word or, being true. Like, we don't want to draft running back in the first round because it's very tempting when you got a guy that's that talented. I wouldn't even put it past Dallas to do it, honestly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If they've got a franchise tag on Tony Pollard, so they don't have an extended deal in place yet, which means after this year, maybe you're up on a running back, and maybe they see that the way they went to Zeke and jettisoned Amari Cooper and say, hey, we messed up. We didn't get the Jalen Ramsey. We had to get rid of Amari Cooper because we were paying a running back. Maybe they pivot the other way in their team building strategy. Maybe after the long Zeke saga, they said, let's draft a guy like Bijan. We'll let him chill with Zeke Pollard or Tony Pollard right now. And then after this season, he can take over and be that guy on a cheap contract. Do the injuries, especially multiple to the same knee, does that really kind of Is that a concern for you, or do you think that when he gets checked out at the medical combine, teams will either say yes or no?
I think it'll be just as simple as that. Teams either say yes or no, and then they'll see the value in it, or they won't see the value in the guy.
Important to remember that the combine is mostly about the medical checks, mostly about the clearing. Testing is, you saw guys don't like to do the agility testing. Obviously, the scheduling is really weird. You've got them doing agility testing after a long day of being up at like 6 or 7 a.m. and then getting poked and prodded all day. And then at like 8 or 9 p.m., you ask them to run the agilities. That's why I think you see a lot of people doing that at the pro day. So the combine is becoming a little bit less about doing your workouts and a little bit more, I think, about the medical checks. And I think there will be teams that, like you said, we're out on Bijan in the first or maybe even the second round, or maybe we don't feel confident about those injuries at a position where he's gotten touches already and he's going to get more touches in the NFL. And maybe a team says, hey, we'll run him into the ground on his rookie contract and then not extend him, which, is a really kind of objective and maybe not a great way to look at it, but from a pure football philosophy, team building perspective is not necessarily a bad way to go about it.
Right. Okay, JJ Production says, how much is Harrison Smith worth? I know he got a restructured contract today, $8 million for 1 year. He took a pay cut. What are you guys' thoughts on him re-signing?
Aging safety. I mean, it's very, very tough to see. He's an aging safety on a defense that's sort of like
in transition.
I won't say rebuilding because
you're moving to a different scheme.
Yeah.
You're looking at different things. Yeah. You're playing a lot more zone before. You're going to play a lot more man now, which obviously, he's going to be playing zone behind a lot of that man. But at the same time, I think you might see that he's going to be the stabilizer for now. And I think you might see Brian Flores maybe try and add his guy, quote unquote, at safety here in the coming future.
Okay, Jim said, Malik, do you see Zach Wilson sitting behind Aaron Rodgers until he retires, or do you think that they trade him to another team?
I think that the anticipation is that Zach Wilson will sit behind Aaron Rodgers and sort of learn, because he does share some similar traits to Aaron Rodgers, and in different ways. That he definitely needs to you just hope that Aaron Rodgers is going to be open to helping the guy and stuff like that. There's certainly no threat to Aaron Rodgers being the starting quarterback with Zach Wilson behind him, but you just hope that at least for this upcoming year, Zach Wilson is absorbing as much info as possible from Aaron Rodgers, because honestly speaking, beyond this year, who knows if Aaron Rodgers is going to be committed to football? We don't know.
How do you guys feel about Bud Dupree?
No, thank you.
I'm good.
He's in his entire career, he's had one good season, one productive season, and that was his contract year with the Steelers, and he got paid by the Titans, and that was it. He has had one good year. There are plenty of other guys, Melvin Ingram and Justin Houston, even their advanced age last year, were significantly more productive than Bud Dupree has been in 4 seasons or 5 years. There's guys that you can have like that, like a Leonard Floyd, guys who have had it. Kyle Van Noy's out there. There's veterans and there's other guys like Floyd who you can get that have been productive or above average in almost every year that they've played. And I'd much rather take a swing on that guy than a guy who was good for one season out of his career.
All right, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us live here on the Sit Down Free Agency Frenzy Day 4. We'll be back here tomorrow live, same time, same crew. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can. Make sure you turn on post notifications. Tomorrow will be our longest show because it is our last show regarding free agency frenzy. So we want to make sure we get everybody's questions in here. Who knows? We might be back here tonight at midnight if some news breaks. With that,
you might, Malik. I got an early morning tomorrow.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time, for another episode of Free Agency Frenzy